Welcome to the deep dive. Today, forget the usual maps. We're kind of charting a course around the globe by exploring the incredible variety of human homes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating journey.
We've pulled together a whole load of information looking at dwellings across cultures, environments, and, well, throughout history, really.
And our mission, I suppose, is to uncover the ingenious ways people have sheltered themselves.
Exactly. And also the deeper meaning sort of woven into these structures.
It's amazing when you think about it. These traditional homes, they aren't just quaint or old.
No, not at all.
Many are incredibly sophisticated solutions, really born from a close understanding of the local environment and just human ingenuity.
And some designs have lasted millennia, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
Shows how adaptable they are.
It really does speak volumes.
Absolutely. So let's maybe start by unpacking how drastically different environments, Arctic cold, desert heat, mountains, tropics, how they've shaped the basic design of traditional homes.
Okay, yeah, good place to start.
And then we can zoom in on some specific examples like the yurt, the Japanese ryokan, the igloo, the Moroccan riad, and, the Israeli kibbutz.
Some really iconic ones there.
Definitely. And we'll try to get into the sort of psychological side too, what these places tell us about belonging, resilience, that balance between privacy and community.
That's crucial, the social aspect.
Yeah. And finally, we'll touch on how things like colonialism and modernity have impacted traditional architecture.
The complex topic, that one.
For sure. And also how some of that old wisdom is actually sparking new sustainable designs today.
Right, the inspiration factor.
So if you've ever wondered, why homes look so different around the world or how our living spaces shape our cultures and lives, well, hopefully this deep dive is for you.
Let's jump in. So that core idea, the immediate surroundings, they just profoundly influence how we build.
Right.
Take the Arctic. The igloo seems maybe basic.
Yeah, you picture a simple snow dome.
But it's actually an amazing piece of engineering. That dome shape minimizes the surface area exposed to the biting cold.
Ah, okay. Less area to lose heat from.
Exactly, which helps trap warmth inside. And the snow itself, packed tight, surprisingly good insulator.
Really? Snow?
Compacted snow, yes. It shows such a deep understanding of the materials right there.
Wow. Okay, so flip that completely. The desert. Intense heat. What happens there?
Well, in desert regions, you see things like Berber tents or adobe homes.
Adobe, right? The mud brick?
Yeah. Often light colors, which reflect the sun's radiation, helps keep things from overheating.
Makes sense.
And the materials, like animal hides or the sun-baked earth, they're often a bit porous. They breathe. Allows for some air circulation, maybe some evaporative cooling.
Yeah.
It's all about working with the climate.
Right, mitigating those extremes. Okay, fascinating. Now, shifting again, mountains.
Mountains. Think Tibet or the Alps. You often find houses built with heavy materials like stone.
For strength.
Well, partly strength, but mainly thermal mass. Stone absorbs heat slowly during the day and then releases it slowly at night.
Ah, helps keep things warmer when it's cold.
Exactly. And those classic sloping roofs on alpine chalets.
Yeah, pretty distinctive.
Not just for looks. They're vital for shedding heavy snow. Otherwise, the weight could just crush the building.
Of course. Practical design again. And, okay, final environment. The humid tropics.
Right? Tropics. Big concerns there are often flooding and just the constant heat and humidity.
Yeah.
So you get traditional stilt houses. Elevating the living space gets you above potential floodwaters.
Smart.
And allows air to flow underneath, which helps cool the floor and the space above. Plus, those thatched roofs you often see. Great insulation from the sun, and they also breathe a bit, allow ventilation.
So it's this incredible back and forth, isn't it, between the environment and the shelter?
Absolutely interconnected.
Okay, let's dive into some of those specific examples we mentioned. Let's start with the yurt. Instantly makes you think of, like, the vast steppes of Central Asia.
Precisely. The yurt is it's portable, circular. It's got this amazing collapsible wooden lattice frame.
Right, like a scissor mechanism.
Sorta, yeah. And then layers of felt covers go over that. What's so brilliant is how perfectly it's suited to the nomadic lifestyle.
Easy to pack up and move.
Relatively easy, yeah. Take down, transport, rebuild. It really embodies that mobility, but also the strong community ties in those societies. Some even think the circular shape helped foster a sense of equality.
Yeah.
No head of the table,
Interesting thought. And it's not just something from history books, is it? I feel like I see yurts popping up elsewhere now.
You do, definitely. We're seeing them adopted more and more for, like, eco-living, and especially in glamping.
And glamping, right. Luxury camping.
Exactly. Companies like Pacific Yurts or Silk Road Yurts, They're great examples of how this ancient design is finding new life today.
Cool. Okay, let's journey somewhere completely different. Japan, ryokan, these always seem so serene.
They really are. The ryokan, the traditional Japanese inn, you've got the tatami mat floors, the communal baths, the sliding shoji doors.
So it's a whole atmosphere.
It totally encapsulates Japanese hospitality, the whole aesthetic. That simplicity, the natural material, it's all meant to create calm, a connection to nature. It's way more than just a place to stay.
Yeah, it's an experience.
An immersive cultural experience for sure.
Sounds incredible. Okay, shifting from that warmth now to a much colder place, the igloo, Inuit regions.
Back to the Arctic, the igloo. Built from these precisely cut blocks of compacted snow, fitted together in that dome shape.
Yeah.
It's just an exceptionally clever adaptation to that severe climate. The design traps the body heat, basically. Creates a surprisingly warm space inside, even when it's freezing outside.
It's hard to imagine snow being warm.
It's the trapped air within the snow and the structure itself. It's a powerful symbol of Inuit heritage, and sometimes the knowledge of how to build them is still passed down, keeping those skills alive.
That's vital. Amazing ingenuity. Okay, let's travel again. Morocco, the riad. These evoke, I don't know, a sense of hidden peace.
They really do. Riads are traditional Moroccan homes, and the key thing is they're built around a central courtyard.
Out into the sky.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
With gardens, fountains. It reflects Islamic architectural ideas about privacy, tranquility, creating a peaceful sanctuary inside, shielded from the bustle outside.
Lovely.
And what's interesting now is that so many have been converted into boutique hotels.
Oh, right. I've seen those advertised.
So visitors can actually experience that unique architecture firsthand.
Wonderful. Okay, one last featured example. The kibbutz in Israel. This feels different, more about social structure.
Yes, very much so. Kibbutzim are communal settlements, originally based on shared facilities, collective ownership.
How does the architecture reflect that?
Well, the layout often stemmed directly from those socialist ideals, prioritizing community, equality, lots of shared spaces, dining halls, children's houses sometimes.
Right.
Now, some kibbutzim have changed over time, introduced more privatization. But that initial emphasis on shared living is often still visible in the design.
Yeah.
It really shows how deeply our social values can shape the buildings around us.
Wow. So these are just a few amazing examples. But clearly there's a whole world of other fascinating traditional homes out there.
Oh, absolutely. We could go on forever. You've got the Trullo in Italy, those stone huts with the conical roofs.
Oh, yeah. I know those.
Ingenious use of local limestone. Or adobe houses, southwestern U.S., Latin America, perfect for dry climates using earth and sun.
Right.
Then there are stilt houses all over Southeast Asia, different kinds of longhouses used by indigenous peoples in North America, born either...
Longhouses, right. Communal living again.
Often, yes.
Oh.
And even more modern takes, like earthships, those off-grid homes made from recycled materials you find globally now.
Earthships? Okay.
Each one just tells a unique story of people adapting, expressing their culture.
It's truly staggering, the diversity, and it makes you think about the deeper stuff, doesn't it? How do these homes affect us? Psychologically, philosophically?
Yeah, it really brings to the fundamental question of what home even means.
Yeah.
Our homes are so much more than just shelter.
They reflect who we are.
Exactly. They embody cultural values, shape our identities. They really influence our sense of belonging, our connection to community. The way a space is designed can push people together or pull them apart.
And we've seen so clearly how the sheer variety shows human resilience, our ability to adapt to just about anything the environment throws at us.
Precisely. Extreme cold, intense heat, flood risks. Traditional architecture is just full of ingenious ways to use local stuff to meet those challenges.
It's also fascinating how they deal with that basic human tension, needing our own space versus needing to be part of a group.
Yeah, you see such different approaches there.
How so?
Well, the design itself sets up a balance, or maybe an imbalance, between privacy and community. It shapes how people interact day to day. Think about how the home is oriented, how much space is shared versus private. These aren't trivial choices.
No, they have real consequences for social life.
Absolutely.
And it connects to that idea of being rooted somewhere versus being mobile, right? Like those nomadic homes we talked about.
Exactly. Homes like yurts, tipis, Bedouin tents, they're the physical form of adaptability, fluidity, maybe even a kind of minimalism. These are cultures built around movement.
Following resources, seasons.
Right. Prioritizing portability.
And then you have the complete opposite. Sedentary homes.
Which often emphasize permanence, deep connection to this piece of land,
Yeah.
building something that lasts, legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really interesting now in our world, with things like climate change forcing migration and digital nomadism taking off,
Yeah.
we're seeing this sort of resurgence of movable belonging.
Movable belonging, like tiny homes.
Tiny homes, exactly. Modular pods, houseboats, converted vans.
Right. Van life.
All of these represent a kind of blend, that fundamental need for a home, for belonging, but mixed with this growing need or desire for mobility, flexibility.
It's like a modern twist on those ancient nomadic ideas.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It really shows how our relationship with home is always evolving.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The impact of colonialism, modernity, on these traditional designs, it sounds like a difficult history.
It is, unfortunately. Colonial expansion often meant the active suppression, or at least the devaluing, of indigenous and local ways of building.
Why? Seen as backward.
Often, yes. There was frequently a push to replace them with Western-style buildings, seen as more advanced or civilized.
So it wasn't just about changing buildings, but imposing Western ideas, too.
Exactly. Modernist architecture, when it arrived, brought its own rule book about hygiene, privacy, order, often completely ignoring the wisdom embedded in traditional designs that were perfectly suited to the local culture and climate.
You mentioned an example earlier in Kenya with the Masai Boma.
With traditional Masai bomas, these circular arrangements of homes inside a protective fence, they were often discouraged. People were pushed toward building individual European-style houses instead.
And what was the impact?
It really disrupted the traditional communal way of life, the social structures, and it affected the community's sense of cultural identity, their pride. When your way of building, your way of living, is suddenly deemed inferior, that cuts deep.
Yeah, I can imagine. It also makes me think, did we lose something sensory in that shift?
That's a really important point. Western modern homes often go for visual minimalism, right? White walls, clean lines, maybe a focus on quiet.
Yeah, awfully quite sterile sometimes.
But traditional homes, they frequently embrace a much richer multisensory experience.
What do you mean? Give me some examples.
Okay, think about the sound of wind rustling through a thatched roof, or daily life echoing in a courtyard. The smell of local clay or wood smoke from cooking, the feel of cool stone underfoot or rough plaster walls or woven mats, even the light, maybe it's dappled through screens or it's the warm glow from an oil lamp. It creates a totally different feeling, a different atmosphere.
Those details sound so grounding, connected to the place.
They really are. And these textures, these sounds and smells, they act as powerful anchors for memory, for cultural identity. They connect us to our place and traditions in ways that sometimes get lost in those more visually focused, maybe sensorially quieter, modern spaces.
It really hits home how much our environment shapes our actual experience of being alive, which leads nicely into comparing communal versus private ways of organizing space.
Exactly. If you put a typical Western home layout next to a more communally focused one, the differences jump out, and they tell you a lot about the culture's priorities.
So in the West, more private rooms.
Generally, yeah. A strong emphasis on private bedrooms, private bathrooms. Individual kitchens are the norm. Walls are used to create clear private zones versus, say, more shared sleeping areas or communal bathing spots. Communal kitchens and dining halls are common in some cultures. Courtyards acting as central gathering hubs rather than spaces being strictly divided.
Like the kibbutz again, or you mentioned West African compounds.
Yes, those are great examples. They literally build the extended family, sometimes the whole tribe, right into the architecture of daily life.
And these layouts, they aren't accidental. They reflect core values.
Absolutely. What's valued more? Individual autonomy or being interdependent?
Yeah.
Is private ownership key, or is shared use the focus? Do you feel secure because you're separated or because you're connected? Space is never neutral. It's like a physical map of our values.
It's fascinating. And what's really encouraging is seeing how some of this ancient wisdom, these old ways of building, are actually inspiring modern, sustainable design now. It feels like a return in some ways.
That's a great way to put it, like earthships out in New Mexico.
Right, you mentioned that.
They use passive solar design, walls made of earth ram tires, rainwater harvesting. It directly echoes traditional adobe building, indigenous Pueblo techniques, really clever reuse and climate adaptation.
Okay, and passive houses.
Passive houses, yeah. Started in Germany, now spreading globally. They're super insulated, airtight, very energy efficient. And that idea, it's reminiscent of those traditional thick-walled mountain homes built to hold on to heat.
So Learning from the past to solve modern energy problems.
Exactly. And think about materials, too.
Like bamboo.
Bamboo, absolutely. In Indonesia, other places, it's booming in eco-architecture. It grows incredibly fast. It's renewable. It's rooted in local building traditions.
But they're making really modern-looking stuff with it, too.
Totally. Futuristic designs, even. But using this traditional sustainable material, it really does feel like the most innovative homes of the future might just be, well, remixed versions of our oldest building wisdom.
It suggests that knowledge is still incredibly relevant, maybe more than ever, as we face things like climate change.
I think so. We need more sustainable ways to live, and a lot of the answers might be found by looking back.
This has been such a mind-expanding journey. We've covered homes built with, well, everything: mud, marble, snow, straw, bamboo, brick.
It's an incredible spectrum of materials and styles.
And yet, like you said, there's that unifying thread. Each home tells a story.
A story of the people, the land, the weather, their whole way of life. It's all there in the structure.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is just that. There's no single right way to live or to build.
No. Only ways that try to harmonize with who we are, where we are, and who we're with. Finding that balance.
Which leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it?
Definitely. Maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
Reflect on the lessons from these homes we've talked about.
Yeah.
How could those time-tested ideas about community, about environment, about materials, how could they maybe inform our own living spaces, our own thinking about shelter in this complex world?
Yeah. What aspects of these traditional homes really speak to our fundamental human needs, regardless of all the technology and changes we've seen?
Exactly. What truly resonates? It's a question worth mulling over.